Take a moment to arrive. Put your feet on the ground, unclench your jaw, let your shoulders drop. Take a slow breath in through your nose and let it out. Not forcefully, just honestly. Do that one more time. In and out. Welcome to the Whale Room. And since this is the end of one year and the beginning of another, happy new year to you. Not the loud kind, not the rushed kind, the kind where you get to arrive as you are. This isn't a place to perform. This isn't a place to prove anything. This is a place to draw. You don't have to be strong here. You don't have to sound healed here. You just have to be present. Before we go any further, I want to say this out loud. Nothing in this space is meant to rush you. Nothing here is meant to label you. Nothing here is meant to push you past what your nervous system can hold. If something resonates, you can stay with it. If something doesn't, you can let it pass. That's not resistance, that's discernment. Trauma-informed spaces honor choice, and choice is how trust is built. At the start of a new year, people love to ask questions, big questions. Who do I want to become? What do I want to change? What am I leaving behind? But there's a quieter question that shows up first, usually before the goals, before the vision board. Why am I like this? Not in a self-critical way, not in a joking way, in a moment of honesty. Usually after something happens. After you react faster than you meant to, after you go quiet when you wanted to speak, after you say, I'm good, and realize you're not. That question isn't weakness. It's awareness knocking. There was a season in my life where on paper, everything looked fine. I was leading, I was building, I was doing what I was supposed to do. Nothing looked broken, nothing. But I remember walking into certain rooms and feeling my body tense before anything ever happened. Not because something was wrong, not because anyone had said anything, just because I was there. I sit down and notice my shoulders were already tight, my jaw clenched without realizing it, my breath shallow, like I needed to be ready for something. And I would think, why am I already bracing? I look around the room. People were calm, conversations were normal, no conflict, no tension. Nothing in the room explained what my body was doing. But my body was alert, like something might shift at any moment. Like I needed to stay ahead of whatever could go wrong. I remember one night sitting alone after a long day, no noise, no pressure, just quiet. And I felt that same tightness sitting with me. That's when the question finally came up, not out of frustration, but honestly. Why am I reacting like something is happening when nothing is happening? That wasn't a breaking point for me. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt informative. I realized my body wasn't responding to the moment I was in. It was responding to moments I'd been in before. That's good. I'm going to repeat that. I realized my body wasn't responding to the moment I was in. It was responding to moments I'd been in before. Let that sit for a moment. Moments where things changed quickly. Moments where leadership meant staying ready. Moments where being relaxed wasn't an option. My body had learned something a long time ago. Stay alert, stay prepared. Don't assume the room is safe. just because it's quiet. And that response had helped me before. It had protected me. It had kept me sharp. But now I was carrying it into rooms that didn't require it anymore. That's when I stopped asking myself what was wrong with me. And I started asking myself what my body had learned. That shift didn't make the tension disappear overnight, but it changed how I related to myself. Instead of fighting my reactions, I started listening to them. Instead of judging them, I got curious. And for the first time, I realized something important. My body wasn't betraying me, it was remembering. What I'm realizing in real time is this. There were earlier environments in my life where being alert mattered, where people uh, where paying attention wasn't optional, where reading the room was part of staying safe. Staying ahead wasn't anxiety back then, it was wisdom. There were seasons where I learned to listen for what wasn't being said, where quiet didn't mean calm, where I stayed ready because things could shift without warning. So my body adapted. It learned to scan before settling. It learned to brace before trusting. It learned to stay slightly ahead of the moment. And in those environments, that made sense. That pattern didn't come from nowhere. It didn't come from fear. It came from awareness. Not because something is wrong, but because something is changing. This new year isn't asking us to become someone new. It's asking us to recognize where we are now, to notice that some of the ways we learn to stay safe don't need to lead us anymore. I'm going to repeat that. This new year isn't asking us to become someone new. It's asking us to recognize where we are now, to notice that some of the ways we learn to stay safe don't need to lead us anymore, to let our bodies learn slowly that this season is different, even if it still feels unfamiliar. Here's where most people get stuck. They judge the behavior before they understand the origin. And judgment shuts curiosity down. But curiosity, when it's safe, is where healing actually begins. A lot of what you call personality is actually protection with a good memory. Your body remembers what your mind learned to move past. If you grew up needing to read the room to stay safe, your system still scans, even when no danger is present. If mistakes once had consequences, over preparing became wisdom. If needing people once cost you something, independence became a shield, not a preference. Protection is intelligent, but what protects you in one season can imprison you in another. I want to say this slowly, especially as we enter this new year. Patterns are not proof that something is wrong with you. They are proof, however, that something once worked. The issue isn't that you adapted. The issue is that no one ever helped you update that pattern once the environment changed. Scripture starts to give us language to what's happening right now, not to shame it, not to correct it, just to orient it. Romans 12 and 2 comes up, and it doesn't feel abstract. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. That word pattern lands differently when you're paying attention because patterns don't show up out of nowhere. They form in response to something. They settle in quietly. They make sense in the environments where they're learned. So when the scripture talks about renewal, it's not denying that, it's not pretending that patterns don't exist. It's acknowledging that something was shaped before you ever had language for it. And renewal doesn't feel like becoming someone else. It feels like thinking from where you actually are now, not from old rooms, not from old pressure, not from environments that required you to stay ready, just from here. And in this moment, renewing the mind doesn't feel forceful. It feels gentle. It feels slow. It feels like you're thinking finally catching up to the season you're standing in. Let's slow this down and make it practical. Because the goal isn't to swap out one label for another. The goal is to change how you interpret what's happening inside you. So instead of saying, I'm bad at conflict, pause and notice what's actually happening. When voices raise, your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up, your body starts preparing for impact. That's not a character flaw. That's a nervous system response. So the language shifts to something more accurate. When voices raise, my body prepares for danger. Not because you're weak, because somewhere along the way, raised voices meant something to you. Now take another one. Instead of saying I'm lazy, look closer. You don't shut down because you don't care. You shut down after carrying too much for too long. After pushing past exhaustion, after being responsible without relief. So the truth sounds more like my system shuts down after being overwhelmed for too long. That's not laziness, that's depletion. And instead of saying I don't trust people, listen to what that sentence is actually protecting. Trust didn't feel free. It came with consequences. It cost you something before you had a choice in the matter. So the honest language becomes, trust used to be expensive before I had options. That's not coldness, that's memory. What's happening here isn't positive thinking, it's accurate thinking. You're moving from judgment to observation, from labels to understanding, and that shift is where power starts to return. Because when you stop attacking yourself for how you adapted, you create space to choose differently when the situation actually is different. Here's your well-worn practice as you step into this new year. When a reaction shows up, don't correct it first. Ask two questions. What was this protecting me from once? Is that protection still needed now? You're not excusing behavior, you're understanding it. And understanding is how choice comes back online. Conversations like this aren't meant to stay here. They're meant to be lived out. The work you're experiencing in the well room is the same foundation behind iThrive. iThrive is a trauma-informed youth development and coaching organization focused on helping people grow emotionally, mentally, and practically with structure, support, and intention. We are online and hybrid, which means you can engage with us virtually and in select spaces in person. Everything connected to this work lives at ithrivetogether.org. For adults, this work continues through coaching and Thrive Pro. That's where insights turn into practice, where understanding becomes movement, where you're not doing the work alone. Awareness opens the door, guidance helps you walk through it. And for youth, iThrive exists to help young people develop early what many adults are still trying to learn later: emotional awareness, confidence, and clarity. The same philosophy you hear here is built into how we serve young people at their level. As this space grows, this is where I'll share updates, program enrollments, and new opportunities. We have so many new things coming, and this is going to be one of the places and platforms that we share what's happening in the world of iThrive inside of the Well Room. The Well Room is where understanding begins. iThrive is where growth is supported. As you step into this new year, you don't have to rush change. You don't have to force healing. You don't have to outgrow yourself overnight. You get to grow with clarity, with patience, with support. If this space resonates, start at ithrivetogether.org. And remember this: the moment you stop judging how you adapted is the moment you start choosing how you grow. I'm going to repeat that. The moment you stop judging how you adapted is the moment you start choosing how you grow. Thank you for drawing from the well with me. I'll see you next time.